Hi, so I'd like to make a note about how we would declare and use multidimensional arrays. In particular, say we wanted to have a two-dimensional array that was essentially just a table of values where we had rows and columns. So I'll build off the code that we already had for arrays and just say a little bit about this. So we could declare a two-dimensional array with var, because we'll have a variable named whatever we like, say something like a. And if we wanted it to have, say, four rows and 2 columns, then the notation that we would use would be brackets 4, brackets 2, and then whatever type. So if it's an array of integers, then we could tell it it has type int. Okay? So if we printed a, then what we should see, and I'll need to cd navigate into the path containing the files, which is called arrays, and then go run our main.go function. What we're going to see is the first row contains the default values of 0, the second row, the third, and the fourth. So we have 4 rows, and each row contains 2 elements, so there are our 2 columns. And in a sense, we're seeing exactly how Go is thinking about the 2D array, which is that it's not thinking about it as a two-dimensional array or as a 2D chart. It's thinking of it as an array of arrays. So here would be the first element of the array, here's the second, here's the third, and here is the fourth. Okay? So each element in the array is itself an array. And so we might think about, well, really the notation that we see, that we are seeing here, is that we have a variable named a. It has length 4, and what's its type? Well, each value here is an array of length 2 containing integers. So you might view this as that you have an array of length 4, and the type is arrays of length 2. And in fact, if you save that and run it, Go is fine with that. It's okay with you parenthesizing in this way, because that's how it's viewing it. In the long term, as you program more, you're going to say, well, I just need an array of a 2D array that's 4 rows and 2 columns, and so I'm just going to declare it in that way. It's 4 by 2. You can see that it's quite easy to work with. And so the next thing is that we can actually update values of the array. So we can say, well, if we want to update a of 2, 1 to be equal to, let's make something that stands out, negative 378, then that presumably is the row 2, so it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3 are the row indices, and then the column indices are just 0 and 1. Okay, so we should see, well, which of these elements is going to be updated down here? And the answer would be, well, here is the 0th row, here is the 1th row, and the 2th row is here, and then index 1 in that row is there. So that's a of 2, 1, and that's the value that we should see updated. So if we save and then go run again, then we should see that that's the value that gets updated. If instead we wanted to update this value, well, that's row 1, column 0. So we would say a of 1, 0 is equal to 46, whatever we like. And save, run, and we see that it gets updated. The next question would be, well, how do we access, if we have an array, how do we know how many rows and columns that it has? Well, we could say fmt.print and then length of a. There's only really a few possibilities. It could print the number of rows, it could print the number of columns, or maybe it could print everything, like all the total number of values, which here would be 8. So it probably is going to either print 4, 2, or 8. And when we print it, we're going to see that the length is in fact 4. So that actually makes sense if you think about a as an array of arrays. So if a is an array of length 4, where each element in the array is its own array of length 2, then it makes sense that the length of the array would actually just be 4. The other thing that I would say would be, well, how then might we determine the number of columns? And so if you think about it, well, each of the inner arrays that we have has length 2. So in a sense, this is a of 0, this is a of 1, that's a of 2, and that array is a of 3. And this is why thinking about it in that way is also useful again. So if I said, what about the number of columns? Well, in this case, it's just going to be the length of A of anything you like. So it could be A of 0, it could be A of 1, it could be A of 2, and so on. If we give it just A of 0, then we'll see that that should be 2. So that should give us the length of that array, which is 2. So when I run, I'll see that the array gets printed, then the number of rows, and then the number of columns is 2. So then the question would be, well, what about, say, 3D or 4D arrays? A 4D array is very difficult to generalize, to visualize, but it's not difficult for Go to actually implement, because we could introduce a variable, say b, that's a 3 by 2 by 4 array of float 64s, and we could print b, and now this is going to be the thing that's contained at the bottom when we go run. And so we see it's starting to become difficult to read, but you see 3 open brackets there. So b is an array of length 3. Those arrays, so we have one element here. Okay, that's the first element of b. This is the second element of b, and that's the third element of b. Okay, and then inside that first element of b, well, you have 2 elements, this one and that one. And then they each contain 4 elements, and the same for each other row. And so you could do this in any way, but you know, as many things as you like, we could add a 6 here. And now it's going to be difficult to like read out on the command line, but it's not difficult to conceptualize that it's a 3-digit or 3 element array in one direction, and then each of those has 2 elements, and then each of those has 4, and then each of those has 6. For now, I'll just note that another way of thinking about this is that B is an array of float 64s, or is an array of something. It's an array of length 3, where each element is a 2 by 4 array of float 64s. And in turn, that array can be viewed as an array of length 2, where the type of the array is arrays of length 4 of float 64. And so, as before, if you saved that and ran it, it's going to be absolutely fine with parenthesizing in that way. Okay? But then over time, you're going to learn to know that and to simply view B in that way, as if you want to declare a 3 by 2 by 4 array of float 64s, well, you just simply enter this notation where you have bracket 3, bracket 2, bracket 4. Okay, so that's it for multidimensional arrays. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.